Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. The only reason I even heard it was because she thought I'd already left for work. It was early. Not sunrise early, but that awkward hour when the house is cold and quiet. I'd forgotten my badge and came back in through the side door. I was moving quietly, not on purpose, just tired and dragging. Then I heard her voice behind the bathroom door. Low, breathless, laughing. "You're still coming tonight, right?" A pause. He's so clueless, it's almost cute. I didn't even feel angry, not yet. I just stood there, still, listening, heart frozen. She kept whispering, giggling into the receiver. And I stood there like a ghost in my own hallway, afraid to breathe too loud. When she came out, she looked startled to see me. "Oh, I thought you left already." She kissed my cheek, smiled like nothing happened, and asked if I wanted anything from the grocery store. That was the moment, not when she lied, not when she slipped past me like I was furniture. But when I realized she didn't even think she had to hide anymore, I didn't confront her. I nodded, said, "Have a good day," and walked out the door with my badge in my hand and my spine straight for the first time in months. She thought I was weak, software A background character in her story. But what she didn't know is that I'd already started mine. That night wasn't supposed to go the way it did. In her mind, it was probably just another round of deception. Just another casual betrayal in a growing list of moments she assumed I'd never notice. She didn't know I'd been watching. She didn't know I'd already seen the message. And most importantly, she didn't know that I'd decided I wasn't going to sit quietly anymore. At 7:14 p.m., Callie sent me a photo of her girls' night. 3 wine glasses on a table, one with lipstick smudged near the rim, blurry faces of 2 women I didn't recognize. It looked real enough, but the timestamp told a different story. She'd sent it while still at home. I know because I was parked less than a block away, watching our front door through my windshield, gripping the steering wheel like it might tell me what to do. At 7:22, she left the house wearing her favorite navy coat, the one I bought her 2 Christmases ago. Her hair was curled, makeup fresh. She looked stunning, like someone trying to impress. But not me. She took a cab, not unusual, but I followed. When we got to the bar, a trendy downtown place with dim lights and glass walls, I waited across the street like some sad, rainless noir character. And then I saw him, Dane. Tall, well-dressed, smug smile on his face as he greeted her with a hand on the small of her back and a whisper near her ear. That whisper gutted me more than any kiss would have. They didn't sit with friends, no group. Just the 2 of them, tucked in the back corner like regulars on a secret schedule. I didn't barge in. I didn't cause a scene. I took a photo. I sent it to her. No words, just the photo. It took her 11 minutes to check her phone. I watched the moment her face drained. Her eyes darted around, probably wondering if I was close. Dane leaned in to ask something, but she stood up, fast, clumsy. She left without saying a word to him. And that, ironically, made me feel worse. Because even after lying to me, she didn't want to lie to him. I didn't go home. I didn't answer her calls. I drove aimlessly until the streetlights blurred and my mind stopped racing. I wasn't angry, not really. I was hollow, and that emptiness, it was louder than any rage I'd ever felt. When I finally walked through the door around midnight, she was waiting on the couch, hair down, eyes red. "I can explain," she said, her voice cracking like an actress at the end of a movie. But the thing is, I didn't want an explanation. I wanted the version of her who used to tell me everything, not the one who needed to hide behind blurry pictures and lipstick tricks. So I told her the truth. "You don't have to explain. I'm not here to fight. I just want you to know I'm done making excuses for you." She froze, like that was the last thing she expected me to say. Because in her mind, I was still the quiet guy, the safe one, the one who would never do what I was about to do next. But she'd forgotten something very important. Even quiet men eventually stop whispering. And when they do, they change everything. She didn't follow me to the bedroom that night. I guess she was waiting for the storm. The explosion, the accusations, the tears. But they never came. I brushed my teeth, undressed slowly, and lay in bed staring at the ceiling, fully aware that she was sitting downstairs, rehearsing some speech she thought might save her. Maybe she thought she could twist the truth, soften it, blame stress, say, "I misunderstood," but I didn't misunderstand. I just didn't want to pretend anymore. Around 1:30 a.m., she crept in like a thief, walking on eggshells in her own house. She stood at the doorway like she needed permission to enter. I didn't say a word. I didn't look at her. She stood there for a moment too long, then turned and walked out. That hurt more than anything, that she didn't even try. The next morning, she made pancakes. Pancakes, as if she could sugar flour her way out of betrayal. The kitchen smelled like syrup and dishonesty. She poured me coffee, sat across from me, and finally said, "Merritt, can we talk?" I didn't look up. "Sure," I said, turning a page in the newspaper I wasn't reading. She took a deep breath. "Nothing happened between me and Dane, I swear. I shouldn't have lied about going out, but we were just talking. I needed someone to vent to. That's all it was." It was the way she said it that shattered me. So calm. So precise. Like she'd written the line ahead of time. Not a single stutter. Not a flicker of doubt in her voice. And that's when I knew. She'd said this kind of thing before. Maybe not to me. Maybe not even about Dane. But this wasn't her first lie. Just the first I caught. Still, I didn't react. Not outwardly. I nodded slowly and sipped the bitter coffee. She leaned in, touching my hand. "I love you, Merritt. You know that, right?" I pulled my hand away. Not to punish her, but because I couldn't pretend her touch still meant the same. "I don't think you do," I said. "I think you love the version of me who never pushes back, who folds laundry and stays up late waiting for you, and forgives too quickly." She blinked, stunned. "That's not fair." "No," I said. "What's not fair is pretending we're okay when you checked out months ago and hoped I'd be too blind to notice." She started crying then. Real tears, maybe from guilt, maybe because she realized for the first time that I wasn't going to be the safety net anymore. "I don't want to lose you," she whispered. And that's when I gave her the first honest answer I'd spoken in months. "You already did." Her face crumpled. She reached for me again, and I stood up. Quietly. No yelling, no speech. I just left the room and closed the door behind me. I needed space, not just from her, but from who I'd become while trying to hold us together alone. The truth is, it wasn't just about Dane. It wasn't even about the bar. It was about a pattern, a slow unraveling of respect, of honesty, of intimacy. And the moment she chose to lie to my face, knowing I knew the truth, something in me detached completely. That's when I made a plan, not revenge, not destruction, but clarity. She needed to see what it felt like when the quiet one finally stopped trying. 3 days passed, and we existed like two shadows in the same house, avoiding eye contact and pretending routine meant something. She stopped trying to talk. I stopped pretending I wanted her to. We ate meals at separate times. She stayed late at work. I worked from home and didn't ask why she didn't text. It became a quiet war, and honestly, I was starting to feel less like a husband and more like a roommate she felt inconvenienced by. Then came the dinner that never happened. Friday evening, Callie came home early. Makeup done, hair too polished for someone who'd had a long day. She stepped in the door holding a plastic bag with one lonely grocery item inside, a bottle of cheap red wine. She smiled too wide and said, "Thought we could make pasta together like we used to. I got that Merlot you like." Everything about it felt off, her sudden warmth, her attempt to recreate a memory we hadn't talked about in months. But I played along. I helped chop garlic, stirred the sauce, even set the table. She poured the wine, humming softly like someone trying to fill the silence before a confession. I sat there, watching her stir noodles and laugh at nothing. It felt like a scene from a play I hadn't agreed to be in, and then her phone lit up. She didn't see me glance. She was turned toward the stove, and her phone buzzed on the counter. It wasn't the name that shattered me. It was the message. "Still want to sneak out tonight, or should I pretend to be your Uber again?" I didn't breathe. I just stared at the words, blinking on the screen as if they might change. But they didn't. I memorized every letter. The timestamp, 6:48 p.m. She was already planning to leave before the pasta even boiled. I stood up slowly and walked to the bathroom, trying not to let my hands shake. I sat on the edge of the tub and just stared at the tile floor. It wasn't shock this time. It wasn't heartbreak. It was a numb, hollow sort of clarity. She wasn't just lying. She was laughing at how easy it was. I went back to the kitchen. She turned to me, wineglass in hand. "Everything okay?" I smiled. It felt foreign on my face. "Actually, yeah. I was thinking maybe we go for a drive after dinner, clear the air a bit, talk. Her eyes flickered. Now? Later, after we eat. She nodded slowly, confused but trying not to show it. She must have thought she still had control, that I was still grasping at crumbs of hope, but I had made my decision. I ate dinner with her. I laughed when she made jokes. I helped clean up. I even kissed her on the forehead when she turned away. And then I waited for her to sneak upstairs and change into whatever she wore for him. Waited for the moment she texted, "On my way." Waited for her to lie, one more time. And when she did, when she said she was going to meet her sister, just for coffee, I smiled again. Of course. Tell her I said hi. She walked out the door with her purse and a lie. But this time, I didn't just let her go. I followed her. Not to catch her, I already knew. I just needed to watch her betray me while thinking I'd never see it. That's when the real plan began. I followed from a distance, no headlights, engine barely humming, as I tailed her through side streets I knew too well. She wasn't rushing. She wasn't even nervous. That told me everything I needed to know. She wasn't worried about getting caught. Because she thought I was still home, sitting in the kitchen like some gullible fool finishing the wine she left behind. She walked with that deliberate confidence, the kind you only wear when you've done something enough times to stop feeling bad about it. Her phone stayed in her hand the whole time. I couldn't see her screen from where I parked across the street, but I didn't need to. I knew exactly who she was messaging. The car pulled up just after she reached the corner, a silver Lexus with tinted windows and those flashy blue headlights. I recognized the license plate immediately, Dane's. She'd described it once, back when he was just a coworker, back when I still thought she had boundaries. She didn't even hesitate. She stepped in like she belonged there, no looking back, no caution. I held my phone in one hand and started recording with the other. I didn't want to. I hated myself for it. But something inside me whispered, "You'll need this. One day she'll lie again. And this time, you won't have to argue. You'll just press play." They didn't drive far, just to a small lounge tucked behind a hotel. The kind of place that didn't advertise and didn't ask questions. I followed, parked around the corner, waited 5 minutes, then walked by like any other stranger on the sidewalk. Through the fogged window, I saw them sitting at a candlelit table, leaning close, laughing in that easy electric way people laugh when they're still pretending they aren't going to kiss later. But I wasn't there to interrupt. That wasn't the plan. I went back home, calm, cold, focused. By the time she returned, it was almost midnight. I was already in bed, back turned, pretending to sleep. She slipped in like a guilty whisper, still smelling like wine and expensive soap that wasn't ours. She thought I didn't notice when she washed her hair at night. She only ever did that when she had something to rinse off. She lay beside me in silence. I waited 10 minutes, then whispered, "Did your sister say hi back?" She flinched, just for a second. Then, "Yeah. Sorry we talked so long. Lost track of time." I nodded into the darkness. "You must have needed it." The next morning, I made her coffee. She didn't notice the look on my face. She didn't ask why I was being so sweet. She was too distracted by whatever script she was mentally preparing for the next round of lies. And that's when I uploaded the video. Not to the internet, not to social media, just to a private drive, password protected, dated, labeled, just in case. But I wasn't finished. I needed her to know I knew, without a fight, without drama, without giving her the satisfaction of a broken man falling apart. So, that night, I placed something in her purse while she was in the shower. Something she would find hours later when she wasn't expecting it. Something that would shake her more than any confrontation ever could. It was a photo. A screenshot of her getting into Dane's car. On the back, I'd written one sentence. "Loyalty isn't a request. It's a choice." The moment she found it, I knew. I was sitting at the kitchen table the next morning, pretending to scroll through emails while nursing a cold cup of coffee. I heard the thump of her purse dropping to the floor, then silence. A long, stunned silence. The kind that creeps in when someone realizes their game is over, and they have no idea how to spin it. She didn't say anything, not right away. I didn't either. I kept my eyes on the screen, waiting, letting her sit in the discomfort. She eventually walked in, the photo in her hand, gripping it like it might burst into flames. Her face was pale, the confidence drained. She placed the photo gently on the table in front of me, and for a moment, just stared at it like it was written in a language she couldn't translate. "You followed me. she said finally, voice flat. I watched you, I replied, just as calm. Merritt, it's not what it looks like. That line, that painfully rehearsed, laughably predictable line. She could have said anything else. She could have cried, yelled, begged. But she chose to insult both our intelligence by pretending this wasn't exactly what it looked like. I just gave a short nod. You've said that before, haven't you? Maybe not to me, but to someone. That sentence lives in your mouth like a seatbelt. Automatic. She flinched. You don't understand. No, I said, leaning forward. You don't understand. This isn't about you sneaking around. It's about you being so sure I wouldn't do anything about it. She looked down, like she couldn't hold my gaze anymore. So, what happens now? I don't know, I said honestly. That's the worst part. I've played every version of this in my head for weeks. One where I scream. One where I leave without a word. One where I forgive you. But none of them fit because I don't even know who I'm married to anymore. She sat down slowly, hands trembling. I didn't mean for this to happen. Yeah, I said. That's the problem. You didn't mean for anything. You just drifted, lied, hid, because it was easier than being honest. She didn't cry. I expected her to. Instead, she folded the photo and held it like something sacred, like a piece of evidence she wished didn't exist. I can stop seeing him. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was tragic. You think that's what this is about? Ending it with him doesn't fix what you did to us. You already chose him. You already chose you. For once, she didn't argue. She didn't run. She just sat there, small and silent. I stood up, picked up my jacket, and said, I need air. She looked at me with wide, nervous eyes. You're coming back, right? I paused in the doorway. You know, I used to ask myself that every time you walked out. And then I left. Not forever. Not yet. But for the first time, I wasn't the one wondering what the other person was doing. For the first time, she was the one left behind. I didn't go far, just enough to disappear. I turned off my phone, drove 2 hours north to a small coastal town we used to visit during our first year of marriage, back when we still held hands without thinking and laughed until we forgot what we were laughing about. I didn't bring much, just a change of clothes and the silence I'd grown too comfortable with. There was no plan, no dramatic exit, no goodbye note. I just needed her to feel something, anything, because I had felt everything. The hotel receptionist gave me a sympathetic smile when I checked in alone. I must have looked like someone who'd been cracked open and hadn't figured out how to close again. The room was simple. Ocean view, quiet. I sat by the window for hours, watching the tide crawl in and out, like it couldn't decide whether to stay or leave either. The first message came around 10 p.m. Where are you? Followed by, please, Merritt, just tell me you're okay. Then more. A dozen messages, calls, missed FaceTimes, all left unanswered. For the first time in years, she was the one pacing, the one refreshing the screen, the one being ignored. And I won't lie. That gave me a kind of peace, not revenge, just balance. The next morning, I went for a walk along the beach. My footprints looked too light, like I wasn't fully here. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe some parts of me were still standing in that kitchen, holding that photo, waiting for her to tell the truth before the lie escaped her lips. When I finally turned my phone back on, I saw a message that stopped me cold. It was short, just one sentence. I told Dane everything. I ended it. Please come home. I stared at it for a long time, not because I believed her, but because it didn't matter anymore. That sentence was too late. Not because I wanted her to suffer, but because the version of me who needed her confession didn't exist anymore. Later that evening, I returned home. She was on the couch, still in the clothes from yesterday, eyes swollen, knees pulled to her chest like a child who had lost her way. When she saw me, she stood up fast, unsure of what to say, arms half raised like she wanted to hug me, but didn't believe she had the right. I didn't know if you were coming back, she said, voice cracking. I didn't either. She took a step forward. I ended it. I told him I chose you, that I should have chosen you the whole time. I raised my eyes. You didn't choose me, Callie. You chose yourself, and you only started running toward me when you realized I might not be standing here anymore. She didn't argue. For once, she just listened. I continued, it's not about Dane. It's about the fact that you looked at me, day after day, and chose to lie anyway. That doesn't go away because you change your mind. She started to cry, and I didn't comfort her. I couldn't. Not yet. Maybe not ever. I want to fix this, she said. I'll do whatever it takes. I nodded slowly. Then start by not asking me to forgive you tomorrow. Let me feel what you made me live with for months. I walked past her and went upstairs. She didn't follow. Maybe she finally understood that words weren't enough, that some damage isn't fixed with effort, but with time. And sometimes, not at all. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling again, but this time, I wasn't imagining ways to leave. I was wondering if she was finally ready to stay. Weeks passed, not all at once, not easily. There were days where we didn't speak, nights where I slept with my back to her, and mornings where I stared at my coffee wondering how we got here. But then, there were other moments. Small, fractured beginnings that looked nothing like forgiveness, but maybe something close to understanding. Callie didn't beg. She didn't force apologies into every conversation. She just changed, slowly, steadily, without asking for recognition. She started therapy. Went alone. Came back quieter, more thoughtful. She didn't touch her phone during dinner. She didn't flinch when I asked where she was going. And most importantly, she didn't ask me to pretend things were fine. Instead of saying, "I'm sorry," she said, "I know you don't trust me yet. I'm not asking you to. I just want to earn it." And something about that landed differently. It didn't fix what was broken, but it felt like a hand reaching into the dark and not letting go, even when it hurt. The turning point came on a random Tuesday night. I was folding laundry, full circle, I guess, and she walked in with an old shoebox. Inside were printed photos, old postcards, and a wrinkled notebook I hadn't seen in years. It was the journal we started when we were first married, a little project to write love notes back and forth. We stopped after a few months, life got busy, things got distant, we forgot. She opened it to the last page I'd written, 6 years ago. Then she slid the pen toward me. "I want to keep going," she said, "if you'll have me." And somehow, despite everything, despite the hurt and silence and every sleepless night, I took the pen. Not because I forgot, not because I forgave, but because I believed that sometimes the hardest thing you can do isn't walking away. It's staying and choosing each other again when it would be easier not to. We're still rebuilding. Trust doesn't show up like magic, but it does grow, slowly, if both people water it every day. And I'm not naive. I know we'll never be exactly who we were before, but maybe that's okay. Maybe we'll become something stronger, something more honest. Because this time, we're not just fighting to keep a marriage alive. We're fighting to become the kind of people who deserve one. Thank you for watching Reddit Confessions. If you've ever faced betrayal or had to decide between staying or leaving, share a moment from history that shaped how you love today. What did it teach you? Drop your story in the comments and don't forget to subscribe to Reddit Confessions for more true stories that will keep you thinking long after the screen fades to black.